it was important for them to read the Yiddish events, which were sometimes glossed over by, the English newspapers. So again, that was part of why this book at that point was so relevant. It is now again about exposing what was going on and how these Jews would survive after the Holocaust and get to ultimately to Palestine, which then became Israel.
And I think it also gives people an idea what the British were like. I mean, they were really anti-Semitic, at that time. People don't know that, and it's good to get this out, and let people know what went on. Now, I don't know how many ships tried to get into Palestine. Not too many. Most of them were blockaded. But the few that did get in, I think my dad said, increased the Yiddish population by 40%. So,
yeah, I think there was 70,000 that those ships
got in.
Yeah, and the ship that the book was about was renamed Hatikvah. It was an American vessel that was a banana transport into the Caribbean that was repurposed. And there were 1,500 passengers, which was not one of the larger ships, that they picked up in Europe. At that time and in the book, wasn't allowed to disclose the ports because it was still secret. The operations were still going on. But it was Marseille, Corsica, Genoa, probably Sardinia. The Italians seemed to be more friendly towards the Jews. And then it went to Cyprus, and the ship was blockaded and captured by the British. They scuttled the engines, I understood, and they took the ship back to Cyprus, where they put everybody in detention, in detention camps in Cyprus, including my father, and then moved them back to Haifa. They had to let him go because he was an American citizen.
Can you explain the backstory of how he ended up being on the ship?
It was an assignment from the Yiddish newspaper, the Morgenjournal. They said that they knew about these ships that were trying to get into Palestine, picking up the Holocaust survivors. And they told him to go on assignment, and they contacted the Haganah to give him instructions. So he organized this trip in New York with the members of the crew, and they all went to pick up the ship, which was, as Elliot said, an old banana boat that was transported. They picked it up in Genoa, Italy. And that's where they picked up some of the survivors. But as he was on the ship, he was sending back articles to the newspaper. It was a series that was printed. And eventually, that series became his book.
This was an extremely secret operation by Haganah because of the stakes were so high. And they were really determined to get Jewish people, survivors, into Israel. And so, and because there was such secrecy, they really didn't want to disclose things. In order for my father to have access to all of that information, they had given him a letter from New York, from Haganah, that was sort of a passport, like you'd see, this is my credentials, and ordered them to cooperate with him. So he had access to things that normally they didn't. They didn't like to have correspondence because a lot of secrets, ports, names of ships, people were being disclosed in these articles. So it was quite a thing. In fact, there's a copy of the letter in the book, which introduces him.
He doesn't even mention his family in the book. I guess he was worried, that the British would find out and maybe, do something terrible.
Yeah. This was just before it was declared a state of Israel.
Yeah,
and
it was
really
1947.
a tremendous amount of pressure from an Arab population, from the Brits, from neighboring countries, and of course the US to do something. So all of these points of conflict met in Palestine, and it's still going on today.